The wedding venue smelled like roses and something too sweet, like perfume someone had applied twice. I stood at the entrance holding a small gift box, navy blue with silver ribbon. I tied myself that morning. The doors were open. Music drifted out, soft and expensive. I could see white linens through the glass, people laughing, champagne flutes catching the afternoon light. I'd driven 2 hours to get here. Left at dawn because I wanted to arrive early. Maybe help with last-minute things. That's what fathers do, isn't it? Show up. Be useful. Be there. I walked forward. The marble floor was cold-looking, polished to a mirror shine. There were flowers everywhere, white peonies, I think, though I've never been good with flower names. My ex-wife would have known. She always knew those details. I could hear voices echoing off the high ceilings, that particular sound of people dressed up and trying to be elegant. My daughter turned. Her dress was ivory lace, the one we'd looked at together 6 months ago on her laptop. She'd asked what I thought. I said it was perfect. She was smiling at someone behind her, and then she saw me. The smile didn't fall. It froze. She walked toward me quickly, heels clicking on marble. Each step sounded deliberate, like she'd practiced this. Her maid of honor followed, slower, watching. I noticed the way her hand touched my daughter's elbow. Protective, maybe, or steadying. My daughter's hand came up, not to hug me, but to stop me. "Dad," she said, quiet, almost apologetic. "I'm sorry, but you weren't invited. You need to go." I heard it. So did the 3 people standing near the gift table. An older woman in a lavender dress. A man in a gray suit checking his phone. A teenage boy holding a water bottle. They all stopped. The kind of stop where you pretend you're not listening but you absolutely are. I looked at my daughter. Her makeup was flawless. Professional. Someone had done her hair in soft waves. She looked like the magazines we used to flip through when she was 12, pointing at dresses and cakes and saying, "Someday." I wanted to ask why. Why wasn't I invited to my own daughter's wedding? But the way she stood there, shoulders tight, eyes not quite meeting mine. She'd already made her decision. This wasn't confusion. This was planned. The gift box suddenly felt heavy. Ridiculous, even. I spent 3 weeks finding the right thing. Something meaningful. Something that said I remembered who she used to be. "Okay," I said. Just that. One word. I didn't argue. Didn't ask questions. Didn't make a scene in front of her guests. I turned around, walked back through those open doors, and got into my car. The drive home was the same 2 hours I'd just driven. Except now the sun was higher and I had nowhere I needed to be. 2 hours later, my phone started ringing. I didn't answer the first call. Or the second. I was halfway home. Stopped at a gas station. Buying coffee. I didn't really want just to have something to do with my hands. The phone kept buzzing in my pocket. 3 calls. 4. Then a text. "Dad, please call me back. It's important." From her. From the daughter who'd just asked me to leave her wedding. I put the phone face down on the passenger seat and kept driving. The thing is, I should have seen this coming. Not the wedding that blindsided me completely, but the distance. The slow, careful way she'd been pulling away for the past year. Maybe longer. You don't notice these things when they're happening. You notice them later, when you're driving home from a wedding you weren't invited to. And suddenly all those small moments line up like dominoes. Started, I think, about 18 months ago, right after the divorce was finalized. My ex-wife, Janet, had wanted the divorce. I didn't fight it. Didn't see the point. We'd been married 23 years, and somewhere around year 15 we'd stopped being married and started being roommates who shared a mortgage. The kind of couple that eats dinner in silence and goes to bed at different times and never quite looks at each other anymore. The divorce was civil. Boring, even. We split everything down the middle. She got the house because she wanted it more. I got the car and half the savings and moved into a small apartment across town. 2 bedrooms. The second one I set up for my daughter, even though she was 24 and had her own place. She visited once. Looked around. Said it was nice. Never came back. I thought maybe she needed time. Divorces are hard on kids, even adult kids. Even when the marriage was already dead. So I gave her space. I texted every few days. Casual things. Hope work is going well. Saw that movie you mentioned. Pretty good. She'd reply, but the replies got shorter. Thanks. Cool. Busy this week, talk soon. Then she got engaged. I found out on Facebook. A photo of her and Marcus, her boyfriend of 2 years, standing on a beach at sunset, her hand extended toward the camera showing off a ring. The caption said, "He asked, I said yes. Can't wait to spend forever with my best friend." 347 people liked it before I even saw it. I called her that night. She answered on the 4th ring. "Hey, Dad. Congratulations," I said. "I just saw the news. I'm really happy for you." "Thanks." There was noise in the background. Music. Voices. She was out somewhere celebrating. "It just happened yesterday. We're still kind of in shock." "Marcus is a good guy," I said, and I meant it. I'd met him twice. He was quiet, polite, had a steady job doing something with computers. The kind of guy who opens doors and says, "Yes, sir," without being asked. "Yeah, he is." Silence. The kind that feels like someone should say something but no one knows what. "So," I said, "when you start planning, let me know if you need anything. I'd love to help." "Sure," she said. "We're not really thinking about that yet. Just enjoying the moment, you know?" "Of course. Of course." We talked for maybe 3 more minutes. Surface stuff. Weather. Her job. My new apartment. Then she said she had to go, people were waiting, and we hung up. I didn't hear from her for 6 weeks after that. When she finally called, it was brief. She and Marcus had set a date. Spring. A year away. They were doing something small, she said. Intimate. Just close family and friends. She'd keep me posted. I said great. Told her I was excited. Asked if she needed help with anything, planning, costs, whatever she needed. "Mom's handling most of it," she said. "But thanks." That should have been the first real sign. Not that her mother was helping, that made sense. But the way she said it, like a door closing, like my offer wasn't really needed or wanted, just something to acknowledge and move past. Over the next few months, I'd ask about the wedding when we talked. She'd give me vague updates. They'd found a venue, picked a caterer. Her dress was ordered. Everything was coming together. I asked once if she needed help with costs. I'd been setting money aside, just in case. "We've got it covered," she said. "But I appreciate it." "You sure? Weddings are expensive. I want to contribute." "Really, Dad? We're fine." I didn't push. Didn't want to seem like I was forcing my way in where I wasn't wanted. I figured she'd ask if she needed something. That's what you do with your kids, right? You let them come to you. 3 months before the wedding, I asked when I should rent a tux. "Oh," she said. There was this pause. Half a second too long. "I'll send you the details soon." She never did. 2 months before, I asked about the rehearsal dinner. I'd assumed I'd be expected to host it or at least help. That's tradition, isn't it? "Marcus's parents are taking care of that," she said. "It's all handled." 1 month before, I asked if she wanted to get coffee. Just the 2 of us. Hadn't seen her in person in almost 3 months. "I'm so swamped with wedding stuff," she said. "Can we do it after? Once things calm down?" I said of course. Of course. And then, 2 weeks before the wedding, I still hadn't received an invitation. I called her. Got voicemail. Sent a text asking about it. She replied 6 hours later. "Still finalizing the guest list. You'll get yours soon." I never did. But I showed up anyway, because she's my daughter, and I thought, maybe I was overthinking it. Maybe the invitation got lost. Maybe it was just an oversight. Standing in that parking lot now, coffee going cold in the cup holder, I realized how stupid that sounded. How long can you ignore what's right in front of you? I got home around 4 in the afternoon. The apartment was exactly how I'd left it. Quiet, clean, a little too empty. I'd made the bed that morning even though I wasn't sure I'd be coming back tonight. Thought maybe I'd stay near the venue, celebrate with everyone, be part of it. The navy blue gift box was still in my car. I left it there. My phone was up to 12 missed calls now. 8 from my daughter. 3 from a number I didn't recognize. 1 from Janet. I sat on the couch and finally listened to the voicemails. The first one was my daughter, her voice high and tight. "Dad, I need you to call me back right now. Something happened with the wedding and just call me, please." The second, "Dad, this isn't funny. Pick up." The third was Janet. Calm, measured, the voice she used when she was trying very hard not to sound angry. "I don't know what you're playing at, but you need to fix this. Call Sarah. Now." Sarah, my daughter's name. Janet always used her full name when she was serious. I deleted the voicemails without listening to the rest. Then I opened my banking app. See, here's what nobody knew. What I hadn't mentioned because nobody had asked, and I'd learned over the past year that if Sarah didn't want to include me in something, she just wouldn't. 6 months ago, when she'd casually mentioned they'd booked the venue, I'd called the place. The Ashford Estate. Recognized the name because it's the nicest wedding venue in a 50-mile radius. The kind of place with chandeliers and gardens and a waiting list 2 years long. I spoke to the event coordinator. Asked about their pricing, their packages. She'd been helpful, professional. Told me about their premium spring package. Catering, flowers, music, the works. "That sounds perfect for my daughter's wedding," I'd said. "Let me handle the deposit." She'd hesitated. "We actually already have a deposit on file for the Reynolds-Patterson wedding." "I know," I said. "I'd like to cover the full balance. All of it. Whatever they've planned, whatever it costs, put it on my card." There was a pause. "Sir, that's very generous. But I'd need to confirm with the couple first." "Of course. Just let them know the offer stands. And if they agree, keep it between us. I don't want to make a big thing of it." She called me back 3 days later. Sarah and Marcus had agreed. I'd given my credit card information over the phone. Signed the contracts electronically. The total was substantial. More than I'd planned to spend. But she was my only daughter. My only child. You do these things. The venue. The catering. The florist. The photographer. The band. Even the cake. Some fancy 4-tier thing with sugar flowers that cost more than my monthly rent. All of it was tied to my credit card. And sitting there on my couch, phone buzzing with another incoming call, I'd opened the banking app and canceled every single payment. It had taken less than 10 minutes. Dispute the charges, freeze the authorizations, revoke the automatic payments that were scheduled for the week after the wedding. The bank's automated system made it easy. Just a few taps. Confirm. 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 Done. I didn't do it out of anger. That's what I kept telling myself. I did it because I'd paid for a wedding I was supposed to be part of. A wedding where I'd walk my daughter down the aisle, give a toast, dance with her to some song we'd pick together. That's what fathers do at weddings they're paying for. But I wasn't invited. So why was I paying? The logic felt sound at the time. Clean. Fair, even. My phone rang again. Janet. I let it go to voicemail. Then a text from the number I didn't recognize. "Mr. Patterson, this is Nicole from the Ashford Estate. We've encountered an issue with payment processing for the Reynolds-Patterson wedding. Please call us at your earliest convenience." I turned my phone off. The apartment was so quiet I could hear the refrigerator humming in the kitchen. Outside, someone was mowing their lawn. The sound was distant, ordinary. The world just kept going like nothing had happened. I thought about the moment Sarah had told me to leave. The way she'd said it. "I'm sorry, but you weren't invited." Not defensive. Not angry. Just matter of fact. Like she'd been prepared for this. Like maybe she'd even expected me to show up uninvited and had her response ready. That's what hurt more than anything. The preparation. I tried to remember the last time we'd had a real conversation. Not the surface stuff, whether work, how are you, but something real. Something that meant something. Maybe 2 years ago, before the divorce papers were filed. We'd met for lunch at this diner she used to love as a kid. I'd asked her how she was doing. Really doing. And she'd looked at me for a long moment before saying, "I'm fine, Dad. Everything's fine." And I'd believed her because it was easier than asking follow-up questions. How many times had I done that? Accepted the easy answer. Didn't push. Didn't pry. Gave her space because I thought that's what good parents did. Respected boundaries, didn't smother. Somewhere along the way, space had turned into distance. Distance into silence. Silence into whatever this was. My phone, still off, sat on the coffee table. I could imagine what was happening at the venue right now. The coordinator pulling Sarah and Marcus aside. The quiet panic. The realization that nothing was paid for. The scramble to figure out what to do. Part of me felt guilty. A larger part felt nothing at all. I'd been erased from the wedding before I ever got there. Now the wedding was erased too. Fair? Maybe not. But then again, when had any of this been fair? Have you ever reached a point where you stop defending yourself and just let go? I turned my phone back on around 7 that evening. Not because I wanted to deal with it, but because the silence was starting to feel worse than whatever was waiting for me. 43 notifications. Texts, missed calls, voicemails. I scrolled through them without opening any. My daughter's name appeared over and over. Janet's too. Marcus had called twice. Even the venue coordinator had sent 3 emails marked urgent. I made myself a sandwich, turkey and cheese. Ate it standing at the kitchen counter. The bread was a little stale, but I didn't care. Then I sat down and started reading. The first text from Sarah, sent at 3:47 p.m. Dad, what is going on? The venue says all the payments were canceled. Please tell me this is a mistake. 3:52 p.m. Dad, I'm serious. They're saying the catering is canceled. The flowers. Everything. What happened? For 15 p.m. Why aren't you answering? We have 150 people here and no food coming. Please call me back. For 38 p.m. Mom says you did this on purpose. That's not true, right? You wouldn't do that. Please just call me and fix this. 5:20 p.m. I don't understand why you're doing this. What did I do to you? That last one sat heavy in my chest. What did I do to you? I set the phone down. Picked it up again. Read the message 3 more times. Janet's texts were different. Colder. You're being childish. Whatever point you're trying to make, you've made it. Now fix this. She's your daughter. How can you do this to her? Marcus had only sent one message. Mr. Patterson, I don't know what happened, but I'm sure we can work this out. Please call when you can. Polite. Even now. That was Marcus. Always trying to smooth things over, find the middle ground. I almost felt bad for him. The emails from the venue were professional but increasingly desperate. The first one, sent at 3:30, was a polite inquiry about the payment reversals. By 5:45, they were talking about breach of contract and legal action. I read them all. Every single message. Then I put the phone down and went to the window. My apartment overlooked a small parking lot and beyond that, a playground. There was a kid on the swings, maybe 6 or 7, pumping his legs while his dad pushed him from behind. The kid was laughing. The dad was smiling. They looked easy together. Natural. I couldn't remember the last time Sarah and I had been easy together. Actually, that's not true. I could remember. I just didn't like thinking about it. She was 14. We'd gone to this bookstore she loved, the kind with overstuffed chairs and a coffee shop in the back. She'd wanted the new fantasy novel everyone was reading, something with dragons and magic schools. We'd spent 2 hours there. She'd read me passages from books, asked my opinion on covers, debated whether to start a new series or finish one she'd abandoned. On the way home, she'd said, "This was fun. We should do this more often." And I'd said, "Definitely. Next weekend." But next weekend I'd had to work. The weekend after that, she had plans with friends. Then there was always something, her school projects, my deadlines, Janet's family visiting. We never went back to that bookstore. She stopped asking me to do things. I stopped suggesting. That's how it happens. Isn't it? Not all at once. Not with some big fight or dramatic moment. Just slowly. One missed weekend at a time. By the time she was 16, we mostly talked in the car. I'd drive her to soccer practice or friends' houses, and we'd have these shallow conversations about school and the weather and whether she needed money for something. She'd say thanks when she got out. I'd say have fun. That was it. Janet used to tell me I needed to try harder. She's pulling away, she'd say. That's what teenagers do. You have to pull back. But I didn't know how. Every time I tried, suggesting dinner out, asking about her life, offering to help with homework. It felt forced, like I was bothering her. So I backed off, gave her space, and the space kept growing. When she went to college, we talked maybe once a week. When she graduated and got her own apartment, it dropped to every other week. Then monthly. By the time the divorce happened, we were down to holidays and the occasional text. She'd chosen to live with Janet during the separation. I told myself that made sense. Her mother had the house, the stability, the familiar bedroom. But Sarah was 23. She didn't need to choose a parent. She had her own place. She chose anyway, and I'd accepted it. Added it to the growing list of things I didn't push back on. When she got engaged and Janet was the one helping with everything, I told myself that was normal. Mothers and daughters, wedding planning, it's their thing. When I offered money and she said they had it covered, I told myself she was being independent. Responsible. When the invitation never came, I told myself it was lost in the mail. I'd spent 18 months telling myself stories to avoid seeing the truth. My daughter didn't want me at her wedding. She hadn't forgotten to invite me. She'd chosen not to. And when I'd shown up anyway, she'd confirmed it. Right there in front of her guests, in her expensive dress at her expensive venue that I'd paid for. She'd looked at me and said I wasn't invited. Not "I'm sorry, there was a mistake." Not "I should have called you." Not even "can we talk about this later?" Just "you weren't invited. You need to go." My phone buzzed again. Another call from Sarah. I watched it ring until it went to voicemail. The thing about patterns is you don't see them while you're in them. You see them later when you have distance. When you can look back at all the small moments. The missed bookstore trips, the surface-level conversations, the growing silence, and realize they weren't random. They were a direction. A slow, steady movement away from each other. And I'd let it happen. I told myself I was being respectful. Giving her space. Not being one of those overbearing parents who can't let go. But maybe I'd just been absent. Maybe space was just another word for not trying hard enough. The kid in the playground was off the swings now, climbing the jungle gym while his dad spotted him from below. Hands ready to catch if he slipped. I'd stopped spotting Sarah years ago. Stopped being ready to catch her. And now she'd built a whole life. A wedding, a future, a new family. That didn't include me. Except for my credit card. That had been invited. The anger surprised me. I thought I was past anger. Thought I'd moved into acceptance or resignation or whatever comes after you stop fighting. But sitting there, reading those texts, what did I do to you? I felt it. Hot and sharp and overdue. What had she done to me? She'd let me pay for a wedding I wasn't invited to. She'd taken my money and my help and kept me at arm's length for a year. And when I finally showed up, she'd asked me to leave. And now she wanted to know what she'd done wrong? I typed out a response. Deleted it. Typed another. Deleted that too. Finally, I wrote, "The wedding is paid for. You just don't want me there." So I stopped paying. The simple. I stared at it for 5 minutes before deleting it. Instead, I wrote nothing. Because what was there to say? I didn't sleep that night. Just laid in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to the occasional car pass outside. My phone stayed on the nightstand, face down, still buzzing every 20 minutes or so. Around 2 in the morning, I got up and made tea. Sat at the kitchen table in the dark. The apartment complex was quiet except for someone's TV playing faintly through the walls. I kept thinking about the bookstore. That day when she was 14. The way she'd smiled at me over the top of a book, excited about some plot twist she wouldn't spoil. The way she'd linked her arm through mine as we walked to the car, still talking about characters like they were real people she knew. When did she stop smiling at me like that? I tried to pinpoint it. Some specific moment. Some fight or disappointment or failure on my part that had changed everything. But there wasn't one. That was almost worse. If there'd been a fight, I could apologize. If I'd missed something important, I could explain. But this wasn't about one thing. It was about 1,000 small things. 1,000 moments where I'd chosen work over a school play, or silence over conversation, or sleep over staying up to hear about her day. Janet used to say I was emotionally unavailable. I'd get defensive, tell her I was just tired, just busy, just not good with feelings the way she was. She'd shake her head and walk away. After she left, after the papers were signed and she'd packed up her things, she'd said something I hadn't been able to stop thinking about. You know what the saddest part is? You don't even know what you're losing. You won't figure it out until it's already gone. She'd been right. By the time I'd moved into this apartment, set up that second bedroom for Sarah, bought furniture I thought she'd like, she was already gone. Not physically, but in every way that mattered. The phone buzzed again. I picked it up this time. A text from Marcus, sent at 1:47 a.m. Mr. Patterson, I know you probably won't read this, but I wanted you to know we figured it out. My parents covered everything. The wedding went forward. Sarah she's hurt. I don't know what happened between you two, but I hope you can work it out. She's my wife now, but she's still your daughter. I read it twice. She's still your daughter. Was she? Or had I given up that right somewhere along the way, in all those moments I'd chosen not to show up? I set the phone down and went back to bed. This time I actually fell asleep sometime around 4. Woke up at 9 to sunlight streaming through the blinds and my phone ringing. Janet. I answered. Finally, she said. No, hello. Do you have any idea what you've done? Good morning to you too. Don't do that casual thing where you pretend nothing matters. You humiliated your daughter at her own wedding. I sat up, rubbed my eyes. I humiliated her? She told me to leave. In front of her guests. Told me I wasn't invited to a wedding I was paying for. Because you weren't invited, Janet said. Her voice was sharp, cutting. We discussed this months ago. Sarah didn't want. We. I interrupted. Who's we? Silence. You knew, I said. It wasn't a question. Of course I knew. Janet sighed. Sarah made her decision. She asked me not to tell you because she didn't want the drama. She thought if she just didn't send an invitation, you'd get the hint. The hint. I stood up, walked to the window. So the plan was what? I just quietly accept that my daughter didn't want me at her wedding? Wouldn't ask questions? Wouldn't show up? Yes, Janet said simply. That was the plan. And you thought that was okay? That was the right thing to do. I thought it was her decision to make. She's an adult. She gets to choose who she wants at her wedding. I'm her father. Being her father doesn't give you automatic access to her life. You have to earn that. And you haven't. Not for a long time. The words landed like stones. So this is my fault, I said quietly. I didn't say that. You didn't have to. Janet was quiet for a moment. When she spoke again, her voice was softer, almost gentle. Look, I'm not trying to hurt you, but Sarah has felt neglected by you for years, since she was a teenager, maybe earlier. She needed a father who showed up, who paid attention, who tried. And you just didn't. I gave her space. You gave her absence, Janet said. There's a difference. I didn't have an answer for that. She didn't want you at the wedding because she didn't want to pretend everything was fine, Janet continued. She didn't want to fake a father-daughter dance or listen to you give some speech about how proud you are when you barely know her anymore. She wanted her wedding to be honest. And honestly, you haven't been part of her life for a while now. Then why did she take my money? She didn't know it was you. Not at first. Janet hesitated. When the venue called and said the balance was covered, she assumed it was Marcus's parents. They'd offered to help. By the time she found out it was you, everything was already booked. She felt trapped. She could have said something. Could she? Every time she tried to set a boundary with you, you disappeared for weeks. What was she supposed to say? Thanks for the money, but I don't want you there? You would have played the victim. Made it about you. This isn't about me? No, Janet said firmly. It's about her. Her wedding. Her life. Her decision. You made it about you when you canceled everything out of spite. It wasn't spite. Then what was it? I didn't answer. Because I didn't know. Or maybe I did and I just didn't want to say it out loud. Hurt. It was hurt. Marcus's parents covered it, Janet said after a moment. They paid for everything. Last minute. The wedding happened. Sarah got married. Without you there. just like she wanted. Good, I said, and I meant it, or I tried to. She cried, Janet said quietly. After you left, after the payment thing, after everything. She locked herself in the bridal suite and cried for an hour. Her makeup artist had to redo everything. Something twisted in my chest. But she still didn't want me there. No, Janet said. She didn't. We sat in silence. The phone line hummed. I need to go, Janet said finally. They're leaving for their honeymoon this afternoon. I just wanted you to know. This isn't fixable with a phone call or an apology. This is years of distance. Years of not showing up. You want a relationship with your daughter? You're going to have to do the work. Real work. Not just showing up to a wedding uninvited and expecting everything to be fine. I know, I said. Do you? I didn't answer. She hung up. I stood there holding the phone, looking out at the parking lot, the playground, the ordinary Sunday morning happening all around me. My daughter had gotten married yesterday. Without me. And according to everyone, Janet, Sarah, probably Marcus and his parents, and every single one of those 150 guests, it was exactly what I deserved. Maybe they were right. I spent the next 3 days not thinking about it. Or trying not to. Went to work. Came home. Made dinner. Watched TV without really watching it. My phone stayed mostly silent now. The flood of messages had stopped. Sarah was on her honeymoon. Janet had said her piece. Marcus was probably relieved to have it all behind him. Everyone had moved on. Except me. Wednesday evening, I was sitting at my desk. The small one in the corner of my living room that doubled as a dining table. When I got an email. Not from Sarah or Janet. From my bank. Payment dispute resolution. The Ashford estate. I opened it. The venue had contested my payment cancellations. Submitted contracts with my signature. Proof of authorization. Correspondence showing I'd willingly agreed to cover all costs. The bank had reviewed everything and reversed my disputes. The charges had been reinstated. All of them. $28,000. For a wedding I wasn't invited to. For a day I'd spent driving home alone while my daughter married someone in a venue I'd paid for. Eating food I'd paid for. Surrounded by flowers I'd paid for. I should have been angry. Should have called the bank. Fought it. Argued that the circumstances had changed. That I'd been deceived. But I just closed the laptop and sat there. $28,000. That's what it cost to learn where I stood. Thursday morning, my boss called me into his office. I'd been working there for 6 years, accounting firm, mid-level position, decent pay. We'd always gotten along fine. Everything okay? He asked. You've seemed distracted this week. I'm fine. You sure? Because the Morrison file had some errors. Nothing major, but not like you. I nodded. I'll fix it. He studied me for a moment. Take a personal day if you need it. We've got coverage. I'm fine, I said again. But I wasn't. I left work early anyway. Drove to a coffee shop I'd never been to, across town where no one would recognize me. Ordered something with too much sugar and sat in the back corner. That's where I finally let myself think about it. Really think about it. The truth I'd been avoiding. Janet was right. Sarah was right. I hadn't been there. Not really. Not in the ways that mattered. I told myself I was giving her space, being respectful, not hovering. But that was just an excuse. A comfortable lie I told myself so I didn't have to face the harder truth. I didn't know how to be the kind of father she needed. I didn't know how to have those deep conversations about feelings and fears and futures. Didn't know how to bridge the gap when silence had settled between us. Didn't know how to be vulnerable or open or emotionally available. All those things Janet had accused me of lacking. So I just stopped trying. Let the distance grow. Told myself it was normal. That all parents and adult children drift apart. That she was busy with her own life and I was busy with mine, and that's just how it goes. But it didn't have to go that way. I'd chosen it. Maybe not consciously. Maybe not all at once. But through 1,000 small decisions. Don't call. She's probably busy. Don't visit. She didn't invite me. Don't push. She'll think I'm overbearing. I'd chosen this. And Sarah had noticed. She'd felt it. the absence, the emotional distance, the father who was physically present but emotionally gone. And when it came time to plan the most important day of her life, she decided she didn't want that father there, didn't want me there. I sat in that coffee shop until it closed, until the barista started wiping down tables and giving me pointed looks. Then I drove home and sat in my car in the parking lot for another hour. My phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Patterson, this is Claire, Sarah's maid of honor. I know it's not my place, but I wanted you to know something. Sarah talked about you a lot while planning the wedding, about whether to invite you. She went back and forth for months. She wanted you there. She also didn't want you there. It was the hardest decision she made about the whole day. I don't know what happened between you two, but I thought you should know it wasn't easy for her either. I stared at the message. She wanted you there, but not enough. Or maybe I'd given her too many reasons not to want me there. Too many years of absence. Too many missed moments. Too much distance that I'd allowed to build up until it became insurmountable. I typed back, "Thank you for telling me." Then I went inside and finally, for the first time in 4 days, I let myself feel it. The grief. Not for the wedding. For everything that had led to it. For the relationship I'd let deteriorate. For the daughter I'd loved but never quite known how to reach. For the father I should have been but wasn't. I sat on the floor of my apartment, back against the couch, and cried. Not the quiet, dignified kind. The messy kind. The kind where your chest heaves and your throat closes and you can't catch your breath. I cried for that day at the bookstore when she was 14. For every day after that when I'd chosen something else over her. For the divorce and the distance and the silence that had grown between us like a wall I didn't know how to climb. I cried for standing in that wedding venue parking lot, holding a gift I'd spent weeks choosing for someone who didn't want me there. And I cried because I finally understood. This wasn't about a wedding. This was about 24 years of being her father and somehow, somewhere along the way, failing to actually be present for it. When I finally stopped, it was past midnight. My eyes were swollen. My head hurt. The apartment was dark except for the streetlight coming through the window. I picked up my phone, opened a new message to Sarah, started typing, stopped, started again. What do you say to someone you've lost without even realizing you were losing them? How do you apologize for years of absence in a single text message? I set the phone down. Some things can't be fixed with words. Maybe some things can't be fixed at all. Sarah and Marcus got back from their honeymoon on a Tuesday. I knew because Janet texted me. Not to chat. Just a simple message. They're back. Thought you should know. I didn't respond. I'd spent the 2 weeks they were gone trying to figure out what to do. Whether to reach out. What to say. How to say it. I'd written a dozen letters. Actual letters. Handwritten on paper I'd bought specifically for this. Started each one the same way, "Dear Sarah." Never got past the first paragraph. Every attempt felt wrong. Too defensive. Too apologetic. Too much or not enough. I crumple them up, throw them away, start over. By the end of the second week, I had a trash can full of failed attempts and no closer to knowing what to say. The truth was simple. I'm sorry. I wasn't there. I should have been. But simple truths don't fix complicated damage. Thursday evening, I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. Almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Mr. Patterson?" A woman's voice. Professional. Unfamiliar. "Yes. This is Andrea Chun from the Family Law Office of Chun and Associates. I'm calling on behalf of your daughter, Sarah Patterson Reynolds." My stomach dropped. "I'm listening." "Mrs. Patterson Reynolds has asked me to facilitate communication regarding financial matters related to her wedding. Specifically, she wants to reimburse you for all expenses incurred." I sat down. "What?" "She's prepared to pay back the full amount, $28,000, in installments over the next 18 months. We have a proposed payment plan I can email to you. She wanted to handle this formally, through legal channels, to ensure everything is documented properly. Through legal channels. Not a phone call. Not a conversation. A lawyer. She doesn't need to do that," I said. "She's insistent." She doesn't want to owe you anything. Andrea Chen's voice was neutral, practiced. If you could review the payment plan and let me know if the terms are acceptable, we can move forward with the arrangement. Can I talk to her? A pause. Mrs. Patterson Reynolds has requested all communication go through me for the time being. She feels it's cleaner this way. Cleaner. Like I was some kind of mess that needed to be contained. Managed. Kept at arm's length through lawyers and payment plans and formal documentation. Tell her she doesn't owe me anything, I said. The money was a gift. She anticipated you might say that. She asked me to clarify that she doesn't want it to be a gift. She wants the debt settled. The debt. Our relationship had been reduced to a debt. A financial transaction to be resolved through 18 months of scheduled payments. Fine, I said. Send me the paperwork. Thank you, Mr. Patterson. You'll have it within the hour. She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, staring at nothing. My daughter had hired a lawyer to avoid talking to me. The email came 45 minutes later. A formal payment plan. Detailed, professional, thorough. $1,568 a month for 18 months. The first payment due on the 15th of next month. At the bottom, a single line. Once the debt is settled in full, both parties agree that all financial obligations related to the wedding are resolved and no further claims can be made. Both parties. Like we were strangers. Like she was protecting herself from me. Maybe she was. I didn't sign the paperwork. Didn't send it back. Just saved it to my desktop and closed the laptop. The next few days I kept going to work. Kept coming home. Kept existing in this strange limbo where my daughter was back in the same city but might as well have been on another planet. I stopped writing letters. Stopped trying to find the right words. Instead, I started looking back. Really looking. Not with excuses or justifications, but with honesty I'd been avoiding. I pulled out old photo albums. Janet had left them when she moved. Said I should have some memories too. There was Sarah at 3, covered in cake at her birthday party. At 7, missing her front teeth, holding up a drawing she'd made. At 10, at her first soccer game, muddy and grinning. And there I was, in some photos, not in others. I'd been at the birthday party. I remembered that. But the soccer game? I couldn't remember if I'd been there or if Janet had taken that photo alone. I flipped through the years. Middle school band concert, no memory of it. High school graduation, I was definitely there. Stood in the back. Left early for work. Her 21st birthday, we'd had dinner. I remembered because I'd been checking my phone the whole time, dealing with some crisis at work that probably wasn't even a real crisis. The pattern was clear. I'd been present for the big milestones, birthdays, graduations, holidays. The things you're supposed to show up for. But the in-between moments, the regular Tuesday afternoons, the random phone calls, the casual texts just to check in, missing. I closed the album. Saturday morning, I went to the bookstore. The one Sarah and I had gone to when she was 14. It was still there. Same overstuffed chairs. Same coffee shop in the back. They'd repainted, updated the displays, but the bones of the place were the same. I ordered a coffee and sat in one of the chairs. Watched parents with their kids browsing the shelves. A father helping his daughter reach a book on a high shelf. A mother reading picture books to her son in the children's section. Normal moments. Small moments. The kind I'd missed. A teenage girl walked past carrying a stack of fantasy novels. The same kind Sarah used to read. She was talking to her dad. Animated, excited. And then in book 3, everything changes. You have to read it, Dad. You'll love it. He smiled. Okay. Add it to my pile. She beamed. Such a small thing. A shared interest. A conversation about books. But the way they looked at each other, easy, comfortable, connected. It was everything I'd never managed to build with my own daughter. I thought being a father meant providing. Making sure she had what she needed. Paying for things. Showing up to the big events. But that wasn't it. Being a father meant being present. Actually present. Not just physically there, but emotionally available. Interested. Engaged. It meant knowing what books she was reading and asking about them. Knowing what made her laugh. What made her anxious. What she dreamed about. It meant showing up for the small moments, not just the big ones. and I'd missed them all. I left the bookstore without buying anything. Drove home, pulled up the payment plan on my laptop, stared at it for a long time. Then I opened a new email to Andrea Chin. I don't want her money, but if she needs to pay it back to feel like we're even, I'll accept it. Tell her the terms are fine. Tell her I understand why she's doing this. I hit send before I could second guess it. Then I opened a new document. Started typing. Not a letter to Sarah. A list. Things I should have done differently. I wrote for 3 hours. Filled 6 pages. Small things. Big things. Moments I'd missed. Conversations I'd avoided. Times I'd chosen comfort over connection. When I was done, I saved it. Didn't know what I'd do with it. Maybe nothing. But I needed to see it. All of it. Written out. Undeniable. This was my fault. Not entirely. Not solely. Relationships are complicated, and Sarah was an adult who'd made her own choices too. But my part in it? The distance I'd allowed? The absence I'd normalized? That was on me. And I couldn't fix it with money or apologies or showing up uninvited to weddings. I could only own it. And maybe, eventually, if she ever wanted to hear it, I could tell her I finally understood. 3 months passed. Sarah made her first payment on the 15th. Exactly $1,568, transferred electronically. No message. No email. Just the transaction appearing in my account. I put the money in a separate savings account. Didn't touch it. Didn't know what else to do with it. The second payment came the next month. Then the third. Each one felt like another brick in the wall between us. I stopped checking my phone hoping for her name. Stopped driving past her apartment wondering if she was home. Stopped writing letters I'd never send. Instead, I started showing up differently in my own life. I called my brother. Hadn't talked to him in almost a year. We drifted the same way Sarah and I had. No fight, no reason, just gradual distance. We talked for 2 hours. Made plans to meet for lunch the following week. Actually kept them. I started therapy. Found someone who specialized in family dynamics and whatever you call it when you realize you've been emotionally absent for 2 decades. Dr. Morrison. She didn't let me off easy. You can't control whether Sarah forgives you, she said during our 4th session. You can only control whether you become someone worth forgiving. I worked on that. Tried to, anyway. Learned to sit with uncomfortable feelings instead of avoiding them. Learned that giving space had been my excuse for not doing the hard work of actual connection. Learned that love isn't just a feeling. It's a series of choices, daily choices, to show up even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Work got better. My boss noticed. Whatever you're doing, he said, keep doing it. You're more present. Present. That word again. I started volunteering at a youth center on weekends. Helping kids with homework, mostly. Math and science. Basic stuff. It wasn't about replacing Sarah or easing my guilt. It was just something I could do. Something useful. One of the kids, Marcus, coincidentally different Marcus, reminded me of Sarah at that age. Quiet. Smart. A little distant. His dad had left when he was young. Mom worked 2 jobs. I didn't try to be his father. Just showed up. Every Saturday. Helped with algebra. Brought snacks. Listened when he wanted to talk. Gave him space when he didn't. Small things. Consistent things. You're good at this, one of the other volunteers said. I didn't feel good at it, but I kept showing up. Month 4. Sarah's payment came on the 13th instead of the 15th. I noticed because I'd started tracking them. Not obsessively. Just aware. I wondered if she'd changed jobs. If everything was okay. If she was happy. I had no way of knowing. Month 5. I ran into Janet at the grocery store. We stood there in the produce section, her with a basket of vegetables, me with a cart that had too much frozen food and not enough real meals. You look different, she said. Different how? I don't know. Less. She paused, choosing her word carefully. Less absent. I'm working on it. She nodded, picked up a tomato, examined it, put it back. Sarah asks about you sometimes. My heart jumped. What does she ask? If you're okay. If I've heard from you. Janet glanced at me. I tell her you're fine. That's all I know to tell her. I am fine. Are you? I thought about it. I'm better. Learning. Trying to be better. That's good. She put a few tomatoes in her basket. She's doing well. In case you wondered, the marriage is good. She got a promotion at work. They're thinking about buying a house. My daughter's life. Reduced to a summary in a grocery store aisle. Thank you for telling me. Janet hesitated. She's still hurt. Angry, maybe. But she thinks about you. That counts for something. Does it? I think so. She adjusted her basket. Give her time. Don't push. Just keep being better. Eventually, she'll notice. She walked away. I stood there holding a bag of apples I didn't remember picking up. Month 6, the payment didn't come on the 15th. Or the 16th. By the 20th, I was worried. Had something happened? Was she okay? I almost called. Almost texted. Almost broke the silence. But Dr. Morrison's voice was in my head. Respect her boundaries. Even when they hurt. The payment came on the 23rd. Same amount. No explanation. I exhaled. Month 7, I got a letter in the mail. Actual mail. Handwritten address. Sarah's handwriting. I stared at it for 10 minutes before opening it. Inside was a single page. Her handwriting smaller than it used to be. More controlled. Dad, I'm writing this instead of calling because I need to say it clearly, and I do better with written words. I don't know if Mom told you, but Marcus and I are buying a house. We close next month. It's small, but it's ours, and I'm excited about it. While we were house hunting, the realtor asked about family. If we had help with the down payment. If our parents might co-sign. And I realized I'd never even considered asking you. Not because you wouldn't help, but because I don't know how to ask you for things anymore. I don't know how to talk to you at all. I've been paying back the wedding money because I needed to feel like we were even. Like I didn't owe you anything. But I realize now that's not how family works. You can't pay back relationships like debts. You can't settle them with payment plans. I'm still angry. I'm still hurt. I don't know how to forgive you for all the years you weren't really there. But I also don't know how to keep you at this distance forever. I'm not ready to see you or talk to you yet. I don't know when I will be. But I wanted you to know I'm thinking about it. About what it would take to have some kind of relationship again. I don't know what that looks like. I just know I can't keep pretending you don't exist. I don't need a response to this. I just needed to say it. Sarah. I read it 5 times. She was thinking about it. About us. About possibility. That was more than I'd had in 6 months. I folded the letter carefully. Put it in my desk drawer. Then I sat down and wrote back. Not a long letter. Not desperate or pleading. Just honest. Sarah. Thank you for writing. I'm proud of you for buying a house. I'm proud of the life you're building. You're right. I wasn't there the way I should have been. I'm sorry for that. Not sorry in a way that expects forgiveness. Just sorry because it's true and you deserved better. I'm learning how to be present. To show up. It's late, I know. But I'm trying. I'll respect your timeline. Whenever you're ready. If you're ever ready. I'll be here. I love you. I always have. I just didn't know how to show it properly. Dad. I mailed it the next day. Didn't know if she'd read it. Didn't know if she'd respond. But I'd said what needed saying. Month 8, her payment came with a note attached. Received your letter. Thank you. For words. But they meant she'd read it. That counted. I kept going to therapy. Kept volunteering. Kept showing up in my own life with intention instead of absence. And I waited. Not desperately. Not hopelessly. Just patiently. Because that's what love requires sometimes. Patience. Time. The willingness to be better without demanding recognition for it. I didn't know if Sarah and I would ever have the relationship I'd failed to build when she was younger. But for the first time, I understood what it would take. Not grand gestures. Not money. Not showing up uninvited. Just consistency. Presence. The daily choice to be someone worth knowing. Whether she chose to know me again was up to her. All I could do was be ready. And for now, that was enough. Month 9 brought the first phone call. Not from Sarah. From Marcus. Mr. Patterson? His voice was hesitant, polite as always. I hope it's okay that I'm calling. I was in my car, just pulled into the parking lot after work. Of course. Is everything all right? Everything's fine. I wanted to talk to you about something. Do you have a few minutes? I turned off the engine. I have time. He was quiet for a moment. I could hear background noise, traffic maybe. He was outside somewhere. Sarah doesn't know I'm calling, he said. And I'm not going behind her back or anything. I just thought, you should know some things. My grip tightened on the phone. I'm listening. She reads your letter a lot. The one you sent. She keeps it in her nightstand. Sometimes when she thinks I'm asleep, I see her take it out and read it. He paused. I don't think she knows what to do with it. I didn't know what to say to that. And the payments, Marcus continued. She's meticulous about them. Sets a reminder on her phone. Triple checks the amount. She told me once that it's the only thing that feels right between you two. Like as long as she's paying it back, there's still something. A connection, even if it's just financial. I never wanted the money back. I know. She knows that too. That's not really what it's about. He sighed. Look, I'm not trying to mediate or fix anything. That's not my place. I just thought you should know she's struggling with this as much as you probably are. She has every right to struggle with it. Maybe. But she also has a right to move forward. And I think part of her wants to. She's just scared. Of what? Of being disappointed again. Marcus's voice was gentle but direct. Of letting you back in and having you disappear. She told me once that the hardest part wasn't that you missed things. It was that you'd show up sometimes. Just enough to give her hope. And then you'd be gone again. She said it felt like drowning with someone throwing you a rope every few months but never actually pulling you out. The image hit hard. I didn't see it that way, I said quietly. I know you didn't, but that's how it felt to her. We sat in silence. I watched people walk past my car, coming home from work, carrying groceries, living their ordinary lives. Why are you telling me this? I asked. Because I love her, and I see how this weighs on her. She wants a relationship with you. She's just terrified of what that might look like. He hesitated. And because my dad died when I was 19. Suddenly. Heart attack. We'd been fighting about something stupid. I don't even remember what. I never got to fix it. Never got to tell him I was sorry or hear him say it back. So when I see Sarah and you both wanting the same thing but too afraid to reach for it, I don't know. Maybe I'm overstepping. You're not overstepping. She needs time, Marcus said. But she also needs to know you're not going anywhere. That you'll still be there in a year, 5 years, whenever she's ready. Can you do that? Yes, I said, without hesitation. Okay, that's all I wanted to know. He cleared his throat. I should go. Like I said, she doesn't know I called. Marcus. Yeah. Thank you. For loving her well. For being what I wasn't. You can still be what she needs, he said quietly. It's not too late. It's just different now. He hung up. I sat in the car until the sun started setting. Thinking about what he'd said. About Sarah reading my letter. About her being scared. About me being the source of that fear. That night I didn't write her another letter. Didn't try to accelerate anything. I just kept going. Therapy. Work. Volunteering. Building a life that wasn't centered on waiting for her to forgive me, but on becoming someone worthy of forgiveness whether it came or not. The next Saturday at the youth center, young Marcus, the kid I'd been tutoring, brought a permission slip. There's a field trip, he said, to the science museum, but it needs a parent or guardian signature and my mom's working. Could you sign it? As like, a mentor or whatever. I looked at the form. There was a line for parent/guardian. Another for approved adult. I can sign as an approved adult, I said. But we need your mom's permission first. He nodded, pulled out his phone, and called her right there. Explained the situation. Handed me the phone. His mother sounded tired. You're the one who's been helping with his homework? Yes, ma'am. He talks about you. Says you're patient. That you actually listen. She paused. If you're willing to chaperone, I'd appreciate it. Lord knows I can't take another day off work. I'd be happy to. Thank you. Really. We worked out the details. When I handed the phone back to Marcus, he was smiling. You're coming on the field trip? Looks like it. Cool. Such a small word. But the way he said it, pleased, surprised, like he hadn't quite expected me to follow through. Reminded me so much of Sarah at that age. I'd let her down so many times. Small promises broken. Next time that never came. Not with this kid. Not anymore. The field trip was the following Thursday. I took a personal day from work. Showed up early. Stayed the whole time. Helped Marcus and 3 other kids with the interactive exhibits. Ate terrible cafeteria pizza for lunch. Listened to them talk about everything and nothing. One of the other chaperones, a mother with 2 kids in the group, commented as we were leaving. You're good with them. Natural. I'm learning, I said. Well, you're doing something right. That boy hasn't stopped smiling all day. I glanced over at Marcus. He was talking with his friends, animated, happy, present. That's all it took. Just being present. Why had it taken me so long to understand something so simple? That evening, I got home to find an email from Sarah. My heart jumped. The subject line was blank. The message was short. Dad, Marcus told me he called you. I'm not mad. He meant well. I've been thinking a lot about what comes next. I'm not ready to see you yet, but I think I might be ready to talk. On the phone. Just to hear your voice and see if it feels okay. Would next Sunday work? Around 2 p.m.? You can call me. Sarah. I read it 3 times. Then I wrote back. Sunday at 2 p.m. I'll call. Thank you for giving me this chance. I hit send and sat back. 1 phone call. That's all it was. 15 minutes, maybe 30. Probably awkward. Probably painful. But it was a beginning. And for the first time in 9 months, I felt something I'd almost forgotten. Sunday took forever to arrive. I spent the week trying not to obsess over it. Trying not to rehearse what I'd say or imagine how it would go. Dr. Morrison had warned me about that. Don't script it, she'd said during our Friday session. Don't go in with an agenda. Just be present. Listen more than you talk. Let her lead. Easy to say. Harder to do when it was the first real conversation you'd had with your daughter in nearly a year. Saturday night, I barely slept. Kept checking the clock. Midnight. 2 a.m. 4 a.m. Finally gave up at 6 and made coffee. By noon, I was pacing. By 1:30, I was sitting on the couch staring at my phone like it might explode. At 1:58, I picked it up. Put it down. Picked it up again. At exactly 2 o'clock, I called. It rang 3 times. For a terrible moment, I thought she wouldn't answer. That she'd changed her mind. Then, hi, Dad. Her voice. Not filtered through a lawyer or condensed into a text. Just her voice. Hi, Sarah. My own voice came out rough. Cleared my throat. Thank you for agreeing to this. Yeah, I almost didn't. She laughed, but it was nervous. I've picked up the phone to cancel about 10 times this week. I'm glad you didn't. Silence. The kind that stretches. I forced myself not to fill it. So, she said finally, this is weird. It is. I don't really know where to start. Wherever you want to start is fine. More silence. I could hear her breathing. Imagined her in her new house. The one I'd never seen. Probably sitting on a couch I didn't know she owned. In a room I'd never stood in. Marcus told me about the field trip, she said. With the kid you mentor. He did. He said you took the whole day off work. That you seemed different. More engaged or something. She paused. Is that true? Are you different? The question felt loaded. Dangerous. But honest. I'm trying to be, I said. I don't know if I'm succeeding. But I'm trying. Why now? Her voice was quieter. Why not 5 years ago? 10 years ago? Why did it take losing me completely for you to try? There it was. The real question. The one I'd been avoiding in all those unfinished letters. Because I didn't realize I was losing you, I said. Not until it was already done. I thought the distance was normal. Natural. I told myself you were growing up, becoming independent, that's just what kids do. I didn't see that I was choosing that distance, making it worse, letting it happen because it was easier than doing the hard work of actually being present. She was quiet. And I'm not blaming you, I continued. This isn't me saying you should have told me or made it more obvious. You were a kid. Then you were a young adult trying to figure out your life. It wasn't your job to teach me how to be your father. That was my job. And I failed at it. Yeah. Her voice cracked slightly. You did. The words hurt. But they were true. I know sorry doesn't fix it, I said. I know showing up to therapy and mentoring some kid and writing you letters doesn't undo 20 years of absence. But I need you to know I see it now. I see what I did, what I didn't do. And I'm not making excuses for it. Mom said you're in therapy. I am. What do you talk about? You mostly. How I failed you. How I failed at being emotionally available. How I used giving you space as an excuse to avoid the uncomfortable work of actual connection. I leaned back against the couch. My therapist doesn't let me get away with anything. It's kind of brutal. Sarah made a sound that might have been a laugh. Good. She asked me something a few weeks ago. Asked me to describe you. Who you are as a person. Your hopes, your fears. What makes you happy. What keeps you up at night. I swallowed. And I couldn't answer. Not really. I could tell her surface things. That you're smart, that you work in marketing, that you like fantasy novels. But the real you, the person you've become? I don't know her. No. Sarah's voice was soft. You don't. I'd like to. If you'd let me. Silence again. Longer this time. I don't know if I can do that, she said finally. Let you in again. I spent so many years trying to get your attention, trying to matter to you, and it hurt every single time you chose something else. Work, sleep, silence, anything but me. And I can't go back to that. I won't. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about forgiveness. It's about trust. And I don't trust you. I don't trust that you won't disappear again the moment things get hard or uncomfortable. I don't trust that this new version of you is permanent. What if you slip back? What if we build something and you just stop showing up again? It was the same fear Marcus had mentioned. The rope that never quite pulls you out. I can't promise I'll be perfect, I said. I'm going to mess up, say the wrong thing, probably disappoint you in smaller ways. But I can promise I won't disappear. I can promise I'll keep showing up, keep trying, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. That's easy to say now. You're right. It is. I looked out the window. A father was teaching his daughter to ride a bike in the parking lot. She kept wobbling and he kept catching her. Patient. Present. So don't believe my words. Watch my actions. I'll still be here next month. 6 months from now. A year from now. Whether we're talking or not. Whether you've forgiven me or not. I'm not going anywhere. She was crying. I could hear it in her breathing. I'm so angry at you, she whispered. For all of it. For not being there. For showing up to the wedding uninvited and making everything worse. For the payment thing. For all the years before that. I'm so angry and I don't know what to do with it. You're allowed to be angry. I know I am. But I'm also tired. I'm tired of carrying this. Of feeling like there's this hole where my dad is supposed to be. Marcus has been more of a father figure in 3 years than you were in 24, and that's not fair. To him or to me or even to you. The truth of that settled between us. You deserved better, I said. You deserved a father who showed up. Who knew you. Who tried. And I'm sorry I wasn't that person. Me too, she said quietly. We sat in silence. Not uncomfortable this time. Just quiet. Two people who'd heard each other trying to figure out if there was a path forward. I need more time, Sarah said eventually. I can't just jump into regular phone calls or visits or pretending everything's fine. But maybe we could do this again. Talk on the phone. Keep it simple. See how it feels. Whatever you need. Whatever timeline works for you. Okay. She took a shaky breath. Next month? Same time. I'll be here. And Dad. Yeah. Thank you for not making excuses. For just being honest. It's the least I can do. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. The call had lasted 47 minutes. It had felt like both forever and no time at all. I didn't know what would happen next. Didn't know if we'd ever have a real relationship. Didn't know if the anger would fade or if the trust could be rebuilt. But we talked, actually talked, and she'd agreed to do it again. It wasn't much, but it was more than I'd had yesterday. And for today, that was enough. The second phone call happened 4 weeks later, right on schedule. This time I was less nervous. Still anxious, but in a different way. Like I knew the ground was unstable, but at least I knew where I was stepping. Sarah called me this time. 2 minutes after 2. "Hi, Dad." "Hi, Sarah." "So," she said, "I've been thinking about what to talk about. I didn't want it to just be awkward silence or me yelling at you again. You can yell if you need to. I know. But I don't want to. Not today." I heard her settle into something. A chair. Maybe. I thought maybe we could just talk. Like normal people. Tell me about your week. Felt like a test. A safe topic. Nothing too deep. I had a good week, actually. Work's been steady. I'm still volunteering at the youth center on Saturdays. The kid you mentor. Marcus, right? Yeah. He's doing well. Got a B+ on his algebra test. He was aiming for a B, so he's pretty proud of himself. That's good. She paused. What's he like? Quiet. Smart. A little guarded, but he's opening up more. His mom works a lot, so he's on his own a lot. I think he just needs someone to show up consistently, you know? Someone reliable. The irony wasn't lost on either of us. Sounds like you're good for each other, Sarah said. No edge to it. Just an observation. Maybe. I'm learning as much from him as he's learning from me. I think. How so? I thought about it. He's teaching me that showing up matters. That consistency matters. That you can't replace presence with good intentions. I hesitated. Things I should have learned with you. Sarah was quiet for a moment. Yeah, you should have. I know. But I'm glad you're learning them now. Even if it's late. We talked for another 20 minutes. She told me about her new house. 3 bedrooms. Needs work but has good bones. About her promotion at work. How she's managing a team now and finding it both exciting and terrifying. About Marcus and how they're thinking about getting a dog. Normal things. Life things. I told her about my apartment. About my brother and how we'd been having lunch every other week. About therapy and how Dr. Morrison had me working on identifying feelings in real time instead of numbing them. That sounds hard, Sarah said. It is, but it's good. Near the end of the call, she said something that caught me off guard. I stopped the payments. What? The wedding payments. I stopped them. Talked to the lawyer and told her we were done with that arrangement. Sarah, you don't have to. I know I don't have to, but I want to. Not because I forgive you or because we're suddenly fine, but because you were right. Relationships aren't debts. And treating it like one was just another way of keeping distance between us. She exhaled. If we're going to try to have some kind of relationship, it has to be because we both want it. Not because I owe you 18 months of payments. Okay, I said quietly. I'm keeping the money I already paid you though. That's yours. Do something useful with it. I will. Good. Before we hung up, she said, same time next month? I'll be here. I know you will. And she did know. I could hear it in her voice. Not complete trust. Not yet. But the beginning of belief that maybe I meant what I said. The calls became a pattern. Third Sunday of every month, 2 p.m. Sometimes we talked for 20 minutes. Sometimes an hour. We kept it surface level, mostly work, hobbies, safe topics. But slowly, carefully, we started going deeper. Month 3, she asked about the divorce. Did you love Mom? Ever? Yes, I said honestly. In the beginning. But I didn't know how to sustain it. I didn't know how to be a partner. How to be vulnerable or open or any of the things that make love last. Do you regret it? The divorce? No. We were both miserable by the end. But I regret how I handled the marriage. How I handled being a husband and a father. I regret disappearing emotionally long before the papers were signed. She didn't say anything for a while. Then, Marcus and I are in couples counseling. You are. Preventative. We figured, why wait until things are broken? Might as well learn good communication now. She paused. Our therapist says most relationship problems come from unspoken expectations and avoided conversations. That rang pretty true. Sounds like you're being smart about it. I'm trying not to repeat patterns. The weight of that statement hung between us. I don't want to end up like you and Mom. Two people living parallel lives. You won't. How do you know? Because you're aware of it. You're doing the work. That's already more than your mom and I ever did. Month 5. She told me she was pregnant. It's early, she said. Only 8 weeks. We're not telling people yet. But I thought, I wanted you to know. I had to sit down. Sarah, congratulations. That's amazing. Thanks. I could hear the smile in her voice. We're terrified, but excited. You'll be a great mother. I hope so. A pause. I've been thinking a lot about what kind of parent I want to be. What I want to do differently. You'll figure it out. Will you? She trailed off. Never mind. What? Nothing. It's too soon. Sarah. She sighed. I was going to ask if you'd want to be involved. With the baby. But that feels like too much pressure right now. We're still figuring out us. My throat tightened. Whenever you're ready. Whatever that looks like. I'll be grateful for whatever you're willing to give. Okay, she said softly. Okay. Month 7. She asked if I wanted to meet for coffee. In person, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Yeah, just coffee. Public place. 1 hour. I'm not ready for you to come to the house or meet Marcus again or anything big. But I think I'm ready to see you. When? Next Saturday? There's a coffee shop near my work. 2 o'clock. Always 2 o'clock. I'll be there. That Saturday, I arrived 15 minutes early. Sat in my car rehearsing what not to do. Don't hug her unless she initiates. Don't cry. Don't bring up the past unless she does. Let her lead. At exactly 2 o'clock, I walked in. She was already there, sitting at a corner table. She looked different. Hair a little longer, dressed professionally. A subtle roundness to her face that might have been the pregnancy or might have been my imagination. She looked up when I walked in. Our eyes met. I raised my hand in a small wave. She smiled. Tentative but real. I walked over and sat down across from her. Hi, I said. Hi, Dad. And for the first time in over a year, we were in the same room. Face to face. Beginning again. The coffee shop smelled like espresso and cinnamon. There was soft music playing, something acoustic and forgettable. Sarah had already ordered a decaf latte. It sat in front of her, untouched. Do you want anything? She asked. I'll grab something in a minute. We sat there. The silence wasn't comfortable, but it wasn't hostile either. Just uncertain. She looked tired. Not in a bad way, just like someone carrying a lot. You look good, I said. Pregnancy looks good on me apparently. That's what everyone keeps saying. She wrapped her hands around the mug. I feel like I'm constantly exhausted and nauseous. But sure, I look great. I smiled. How far along now? 16 weeks. We found out last week. It's a girl. A granddaughter. I was going to have a granddaughter. That's wonderful. Yeah. She looked down at her coffee. We're thinking about names. Marcus wants something classic. I want something a little more unique. We'll figure it out. You have time. Not as much as you'd think. 5 months goes fast apparently. She finally looked up at me. Really looked. You do look different. I don't know what it is exactly. But you seem lighter somehow. Therapy will do that. Are you still going? Every week. Dr. Morrison says I'm making progress. I think she's just being nice. I doubt that. Therapists get paid either way. A small smile. What do you talk about now? Still me? Sometimes. Mostly we talk about patterns. How I learned to avoid discomfort. How I confused absence with respect. How I need to learn to tolerate difficult emotions instead of shutting down. Sarah nodded slowly. Mom used to say you shut down, that when things got emotional you just leave, physically or emotionally. She said it was like talking to a wall. She was right. Do you still do that? Sometimes, but I'm getting better at catching it. At staying present even when it's uncomfortable. I met her eyes. Like right now, this is uncomfortable. Every part of me wants to make a joke or change the subject or get up and get coffee so I don't have to sit in this feeling. But I'm staying. I noticed. She took a sip of her latte. This is uncomfortable for me too, for the record. I know. I almost canceled. This morning I almost texted you and said I wasn't ready. What changed your mind? She thought about it. I talked to my therapist. She asked me what I was afraid of. I said I was afraid you'd disappoint me again. That you'd show up today and be the old version of you. Checked out, uncomfortable, counting the minutes until you could leave. She paused. And she asked me what evidence I had that you were still that person. And I didn't have any. Just fear. Fear makes sense. Does it? Or am I just holding on to something that isn't there anymore? She set down her mug. Marcus says I need to make a choice. Either I keep you at arm's length forever and accept that this is our relationship, or I take a risk and see if something different is possible. And I hate that he's right. But he is. You don't have to decide anything today. I know. But I want to. I'm tired of being in limbo. I'm tired of monthly phone calls where we talk about nothing important. I'm tired of being angry at someone who's trying to change. She looked at me directly. Are you trying to change? Yes. Why should I believe you? Because I've shown up every month for 8 months. Because I've done the work even when you weren't watching. Because I'm sitting here right now even though every instinct I have is telling me to run. I leaned forward slightly. But you shouldn't believe me because I say so. You should wait and see. Watch what I do, not what I say. She studied me. Mom said the same thing. To watch your actions. Janet's smart. She is. She's also worried about me. About this. Sarah gestured between us. She thinks I'm setting myself up to get hurt again. She might be right. I know. That's what scares me. She looked out the window. A mother was pushing a stroller past. Sarah watched her for a moment. I'm going to be a mom in 5 months. And I've been thinking about what kind of relationship I want my daughter to have with her grandfather. If I want her to have one at all. The words hit hard. And I realized, she continued, that I don't want her to grow up feeling the way I felt. Like there's this person who's supposed to love her but doesn't know how. Like she has to earn attention or approval. Like she's not quite enough. She turned back to me. But I also don't want to let you in just because you're her grandfather. I need to know you're different. That you'll show up for her in ways you didn't show up for me. I understand. Do you? Because this isn't just about us anymore. This is about a child. My child. And I will protect her from anything and anyone that might hurt her. Even you. I wouldn't want it any other way. Sarah's eyes were glassy. She blinked a few times. I don't know if I can forgive you completely, for everything, but I think I want to try to have some kind of relationship. Something real. Not just phone calls and surface conversations, but actual connection. My chest tightened. I want that too. It won't be easy. I'm going to have hard days where I'm angry at you for things that happened years ago. There are going to be moments where I pull back because I'm scared. You're going to have to be patient with that. I can do that. And you have to actually show up. Not just for the big things, the birthdays, whatever, but for the small things too. The random Tuesday afternoons. The calls just to check in. The kind of consistent presence I needed when I was growing up. I will. If you disappear again, if you slip back into old patterns, I won't give you another chance. This is it. The last one. I understand. She nodded. Wiped her eyes quickly. Okay. Then let's try. Okay. We sat there for a moment. Then Sarah reached into her bag and pulled out a small envelope. What's this? I asked. Open it. Inside was a printout. An ultrasound image. A tiny profile, barely visible, but unmistakably a baby. That's her, Sarah said softly. Your granddaughter. I stared at the image. This tiny person who didn't exist a few months ago. Who would be here soon. Who would be part of Sarah's life and, if I did this right, part of mine. She's perfect, I said. She is. Sarah's voice was thick with emotion. And she deserves a grandfather who shows up. Who's present. Who's there. She'll have one. Promise me. I looked up from the ultrasound. Met my daughter's eyes. Saw the hope there. The fear. The desperate need to believe this could be different. I promise, I said. I won't disappear. Not from her. Not from you. I'm here. And I'm staying. Sarah nodded. A tear slipped down her cheek. Okay, she whispered. Okay. We stayed at that coffee shop for 2 hours. Talked about the pregnancy, about baby names, about her house renovations and Marcus's new project at work. We talked about my volunteering and young Marcus's progress. We even laughed a few times. It wasn't perfect. There were still awkward pauses. Still moments of tension. Still years of hurt sitting between us that wouldn't disappear with one conversation. But it was a start. A real start. When we finally stood to leave, Sarah hesitated. Then she stepped forward and hugged me. It was brief, uncertain, but it was real. Same time next month? She asked as we pulled apart. Actually, she said, what if we did every other week? Just for a while. To get used to this. Every other week. I'd like that. Good. She adjusted her purse on her shoulder. I'll text you. Okay. She started to walk away, then turned back. Dad. Yeah. Thank you. For trying. For actually trying. Thank you for letting me. I watched her leave. Walked to my car. Sat there for 10 minutes just breathing. For the first time in over a year, I felt like maybe, possibly, things might actually be okay. Not perfect. Not fixed. But moving in the right direction. And that was enough. The next 8 weeks passed in a rhythm I wasn't used to. Every other Sunday, Sarah and I met for coffee. Sometimes we talked about the pregnancy. Sometimes about work or her house or nothing particularly important. But we talked. Consistently. And slowly, the awkwardness started to fade. During our 4th coffee meeting, she showed me paint samples for the nursery. I can't decide between this soft sage green or this warm gray, she said, holding up 2 nearly identical swatches. I studied them. What does Marcus think? He says they're the same color. Men. She rolled her eyes, but she was smiling. I'm leaning toward the sage. It feels calmer. Then go with the sage. You think. I think you should trust your instincts. You're her mother. You'll know what feels right. Something shifted in her expression. Softened. Yeah, I guess you're right. She asked my opinion on other things too. Car seats, which brand was safer. Cribs, convertible or standard. Small things. Nothing major. But each question felt like a test I was being allowed to take. I didn't overstep. Didn't offer unsolicited advice. Just answered what she asked and followed her lead. You're being careful, she said one afternoon. We were walking through a park near her house. She'd suggested it instead of coffee. Said she needed to move, that sitting still made her restless. Careful how? With me. You're measuring every word. Letting me control everything. Is that bad? No. It's just different. The old you would have taken over. Would have had opinions about everything and assumed you knew best. She glanced at me. This version of you asks questions instead of giving answers. Dr. Morrison's doing. She says I need to learn to be curious instead of assuming I know what people need. She sounds smart. She is. Terrifyingly so. Sarah smiled. We walked in silence for a bit. It was late October. Leaves were falling, gathering in piles along the path. The air smelled like autumn, earth and wood smoke and something fading. Can I ask you something? Sarah said. Of course. What changed? Really? What made you actually commit to therapy and showing up and all of it? Because I've asked you to try before. Not explicitly, but I dropped hints. Asked you to be more present. And you never followed through. So what's different now? I'd been waiting for this question. Knew it was coming eventually. Honestly, I think it was losing you completely. When you told me to leave the wedding, when I realized I'd paid for this whole event and wasn't even invited, it broke something open. Made me see what I'd been avoiding for years. I paused. Before that, I could tell myself the distance was mutual. That you were busy, I was busy, that's just how adult relationships with parents work. But standing there being told to leave, there was no way to avoid the truth anymore. Which was that I'd failed you. Completely. And if I didn't change, actually change, not just promise to change, I was going to lose you forever. Sarah was quiet. We kept walking. The payment thing, she said after a while. Canceling everything. That was petty. It was. But I get it. I understand why you did it. I looked at her, surprised. I would have done the same thing, she continued. If someone treated me like that, used me financially but didn't want me there, I would have been furious. I wasn't trying to ruin your wedding. I know. You were hurt. You reacted. She shrugged. Marcus's parents came through. The wedding happened. It was fine. Was it though? Janet said you cried. I did. For a lot of reasons. Because I'd hurt you. Because you'd hurt me. Because the whole thing was such a mess and I didn't know how to fix it. She stopped walking, turned to face me. I cried because even though I didn't want you there, part of me desperately did. And I hated myself for feeling both things at once. You can feel both things. I know that now. My therapist helped me see that. That I could be angry at you and still love you. That I could want distance and still grieve what we didn't have. She started walking again. I spent a long time thinking it had to be one or the other. Either you were a good dad or a bad dad. Either I loved you or I didn't. But it's more complicated than that. It is. You were absent in a lot of ways. But you also showed up sometimes. You paid for college. You helped me move into my first apartment. You were there for my graduation even if you left early. It wasn't all bad. It just wasn't enough. The honesty of it sat heavy between us. I'm sorry it wasn't enough, I said. I know you are, and I'm working on accepting that apology. On believing you actually mean it this time. We reached the end of the path. There was a bench overlooking a small pond. Sarah sat down, gestured for me to join her. Marcus and I have been talking about the birth, she said. About who we want in the delivery room. My heart started beating faster. We're keeping it small. Just him and my mom. But, she looked at me. We wondered if you'd want to be at the hospital. In the waiting room or wherever. Not in the room but nearby. So you could meet her right away. I couldn't speak for a moment. You don't have to decide now, Sarah added quickly. Think about it. But I wanted you to know the options there. If you want it. I want it, I said. I absolutely want it. Okay. She smiled. A real smile. Warm and unguarded. Okay, good. We sat there watching ducks glide across the pond. A family was feeding them bread despite the sign that said not to. Their kids were laughing, running back and forth. What if I mess up? I said quietly. With her. With being a grandfather. What if I fall back into old patterns? Then I'll tell you. And you'll correct course. Sarah looked at me. That's the difference this time. Before, I couldn't tell you when you were hurting me. I was a kid, and then a teenager who didn't know how to articulate it. But now I'm an adult. And if you start disappearing or checking out, I'll call you on it. Immediately. I'd want you to. Good. Because I will. She stood up, stretched. I should get home. Marcus is making dinner and I'm supposed to pick up groceries on the way. We walked back to the parking lot. Her car was next to mine. Before she got in, she turned to me. Next time, would you want to come to the house? Meet Marcus properly. See the nursery. My throat tightened. I'd love that. Next Sunday, we could do lunch. Nothing fancy. Just sandwiches or something. That sounds perfect. She nodded. Got in her car. I watched her drive away before getting in mine. On the way home, I called Dr. Morrison. Left a voicemail. Hi, it's me. I just wanted to let you know. I think we're making progress. Real progress. Sarah invited me to her house next week to meet Marcus and see the nursery, and she asked me to be at the hospital when the baby's born. I paused. I just wanted to say thank you for not giving up on me, for pushing me to do this work even when I didn't think it would matter. It matters. It's all starting to matter. When I got home, I sat down and wrote another letter. Not to Sarah this time. To my future granddaughter. Dear little one, you're not here yet, but I already love you. I already want to be the grandfather you deserve. The kind who shows up, who's present, who knows you. I made mistakes with your mother. A lot of them. But I'm learning, changing, trying to be better. By the time you read this, if you ever do, I hope I've proven that change is possible. That people can grow. That it's never too late to choose presence over absence. I can't wait to meet you. Love, your grandpa. I folded it carefully, put it in an envelope, tucked it in my desk drawer next to all the other letters I'd written over the past year. Maybe someday I'd give them to her. Maybe not. But writing them mattered. Showing up mattered. And for the first time in a very long time, I was doing both. Sunday came faster than I expected. I spent Saturday cleaning my apartment even though Sarah wasn't coming here. Reorganized my bookshelves. Went to the store 3 times because I kept forgetting things. Finally settled on bringing flowers. Nothing extravagant. Just a simple bouquet from the grocery store. Then worried that was too much. Put them back. Picked them up again. Dr. Morrison would have had a field day with my anxiety. I showed up at noon exactly. Their house was in a quiet neighborhood, older homes, big trees, the kind of street where people actually knew their neighbors. It was a small craftsman-style house, pale blue with white trim. The porch had 2 chairs and a small table. A welcome mat that said, "Home Sweet Home." I stood on the sidewalk for a full minute before walking up. Before I could knock, the door opened. Marcus stood there, smiling. "Mr. Patterson, good to see you. Please, call me Dan." "Dan." He stepped aside. "Come in." The house smelled like paint and something baking. The living room was small but warm. A couch, 2 chairs, bookshelves lining one wall. There were moving boxes still stacked in the corner, some labeled, some not. "We're still unpacking," Marcus said, following my gaze. "Turns out buying a house and preparing for a baby at the same time is ambitious." "Sounds like it." Sarah appeared from what I assumed was the kitchen. She was wearing jeans and an oversized sweater, hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked comfortable. "At home." "Hey, Dad, you found it okay?" "GPS did all the work." She smiled. "Come on, I'll give you the tour." The house was modest. Living room, small dining area, kitchen that needed updating but was functional. 2 bedrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom. And the nursery. Sarah opened the door with obvious pride. The walls were painted that soft sage green. A white crib sat against one wall, still in pieces waiting to be assembled. There was a rocking chair in the corner, a changing table, shelves that were mostly empty but would soon hold books and toys and all the things babies accumulate. "We're still figuring out the layout," Sarah said. "And we need to assemble the crib. Marcus keeps saying he'll do it, but he's intimidated by the instructions." "They're in Swedish," Marcus called from downstairs. "They're in English with Swedish diagrams," Sarah called back. She turned to me. If you're not busy, would you want to help him? With the crib? He could probably use a second set of hands." It was such a small thing, such an ordinary request, but it felt enormous. "I'd love to." We had lunch first. Marcus had made sandwiches, nothing fancy, like Sarah promised. We sat at their dining table, the 3 of us, eating and talking about normal things. Their jobs, the house, young Marcus from the youth center and how he'd gotten an A on his recent test. "You really care about that kid," Sarah observed. "I do. He reminds me that it's never too late to show up for someone." She nodded slowly, didn't say anything, but I could see her processing it. After lunch, Marcus and I tackled the crib. He spread the instructions out on the nursery floor. Dozens of pieces, screws, bolts, panels labeled with letters and numbers. "This seemed simpler in the store," he said. "They always do." We worked methodically. Marcus reading instructions, me holding pieces in place. At one point he had two identical-looking panels and couldn't figure out which was which. I think this one has a notch on the left, I said, pointing. He checked. You're right. Good catch. We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said, Sarah talks about you more now. In a good way. I looked up from the screw I was tightening. Before, she'd mention you sometimes, but it was always heavy, complicated. Now when she talks about you, there's less weight to it. He fitted another piece into place. I think these phone calls and visits are helping, giving her space to figure out what she wants this to look like. I hope so. She's still scared, though, that you'll revert, that this is temporary. I know. Are you? Scared. I thought about it. Terrified. Not of reverting, I won't let myself do that, but of not being enough, of trying my hardest and still failing her again. Marcus nodded. I get that. I'm terrified about being a dad, about screwing up some fundamental thing and not realizing it until it's too late. You'll be fine. You show up. That's most of it. That's what Sarah says. He lined up another panel. She told me about the wedding, about asking you to leave. She feels guilty about it. She shouldn't. I told her the same thing, but she does anyway. He glanced at me. She was trying to protect herself, drawing a boundary. I think part of her hoped you'd fight for it, argue, demand to stay, something. And when you just left quietly, it confirmed what she'd feared, that you didn't care enough to fight. The assessment stung because it was probably accurate. I didn't know how to fight for her, I said quietly. I'd spent so many years backing off, giving space, not pushing. I didn't know that was what she needed. I don't think she knew either. Not until after. Marcus picked up the next piece. But the payment thing, canceling everything, that showed her you felt something. That you were hurt. That it mattered. In a weird way, I think that's what started this whole thing. You finally reacted. Finally showed emotion instead of just accepting whatever she dished out. I'd never thought of it that way. She needs to know you care enough to react, Marcus continued, but also that you respect her enough to accept her decisions. It's a balance. Sounds impossible. Most relationships are. He smiled slightly. But you're figuring it out. Both of you are. We finished the crib 45 minutes later. Stood back to admire our work. It's actually level, Marcus said, sounding surprised. Don't jinx it. Sarah appeared in the doorway. You did it. We did, Marcus confirmed. She walked over, ran her hand along the railing. It's perfect. She's going to love it. She won't know the difference for a few years, I said. Still, Sarah looked at us. Thank you. Both of you. We went back downstairs. Had coffee, decaf for Sarah. Sat in their living room talking about nothing important. Baby names they were considering. Marcus's new project at work. My brother and his upcoming visit. Normal conversation. Easy conversation. At one point, Sarah excused herself. Marcus got a phone call and stepped outside. I sat there in their living room, in this house they were building together, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Belonging. Not forced. Not obligatory. Just present. When it was time to leave, Sarah walked me to the door. Thank you for coming, she said. For helping with the crib. For being here. Thank you for inviting me. We're having Thanksgiving here. Small thing. Just us and Mom and Marcus's parents. Would you want to come? Thanksgiving. With Janet. With Marcus's parents who'd saved the wedding. With everyone who knew the whole messy story. Are you sure? No, she said honestly. But I want to try. And if it's terrible, at least we'll have tried. Then I'd love to. She smiled. Hugged me again. Longer this time. More certain. See you in 2 weeks? She said. I'll be here. I drove home as the sun was setting. The streets were quiet. Families having dinner. Lights coming on in windows. The world settling into evening. My phone rang. Janet. I answered. Hello. Sarah told me she invited you to Thanksgiving. She did. A pause. That's good. That's progress. It is. I'm glad you're trying. Really trying this time. Her voice was softer than I'd heard it in years. She deserves that. And so do you. Thank you. Don't make me regret saying that. I won't. After we hung up, I pulled into a parking lot. Sat there watching the sky fade from orange to purple to dark. I thought about the crib Marcus and I had built. About Sarah's hand on the railing. About Thanksgiving dinner with people who had every reason to hate me but were willing to give me a chance anyway. About my granddaughter who would sleep in that crib in a few months. About all the moments I'd missed with Sarah and all the moments I might get to have with this new little person. I wasn't fixed. The relationship with Sarah wasn't fixed. We still had years of hurt to work through. Still had conversations we needed to have. Still had trust to rebuild. But we were trying. Both of us. And that was something. Sunday came faster than I expected. I spent Saturday cleaning my apartment even though Sarah wasn't coming here. Reorganized my bookshelves. Went to the store 3 times because I kept forgetting things. Finally settled on bringing flowers. Nothing extravagant. Just a simple bouquet from the grocery store. Then worried that was too much. Put them back. Picked them up again. Dr. Morrison would have had a field day with my anxiety. I showed up at noon exactly. Their house was in a quiet neighborhood, older homes, big trees, the kind of street where people actually knew their neighbors. It was a small craftsman-style house. Pale blue with white trim. The porch had 2 chairs and a small table. A welcome mat that said, "Home Sweet Home." I stood on the sidewalk for a full minute before walking up. Before I could knock, the door opened. Marcus stood there, smiling. "Mr. Patterson. Good to see you. Please, call me Dan." "Dan." He stepped aside. "Come in." The house smelled like paint and something baking. The living room was small but warm. A couch, 2 chairs, bookshelves lining one wall. There were moving boxes still stacked in the corner, some labeled, some not. "We're still unpacking," Marcus said, following my gaze. "Turns out buying a house and preparing for a baby at the same time is ambitious." "Sounds like it." Sarah appeared from what I assumed was the kitchen. She was wearing jeans and an oversized sweater, hair pulled back in a ponytail. She looked comfortable. "At home." "Hey, Dad. You found it okay?" "GPS did all the work." She smiled. "Come on. I'll give you the tour." The house was modest. Living room, small dining area, kitchen that needed updating but was functional. 2 bedrooms upstairs, 1 bathroom. And the nursery. Sarah opened the door with obvious pride. The walls were painted that soft sage green. A white crib sat against one wall, still in pieces waiting to be assembled. There was a rocking chair in the corner, a changing table, shelves that were mostly empty but would soon hold books and toys and all the things babies accumulate. "We're still figuring out the layout," Sarah said. "And we need to assemble the crib. Marcus keeps saying he'll do it, but he's intimidated by the instructions." "They're in Swedish," Marcus called from downstairs. "They're in English with Swedish diagrams," Sarah called back. She turned to me. If you're not busy, would you want to help him? With the crib? He could probably use a second set of hands." It was such a small thing. Such an ordinary request. But it felt enormous. "I'd love to." We had lunch first. Marcus had made sandwiches, nothing fancy, like Sarah promised. We sat at their dining table, the 3 of us, eating and talking about normal things. Their jobs. The house. Young Marcus from the youth center and how he'd gotten an A on his recent test. "You really care about that kid," Sarah observed. "I do. He reminds me that it's never too late to show up for someone." She nodded slowly. Didn't say anything, but I could see her processing it. After lunch, Marcus and I tackled the crib. He spread the instructions out on the nursery floor. Dozens of pieces, screws, bolts, panels labeled with letters and numbers. "This seemed simpler in the store," he said. "They always do." We worked methodically. Marcus reading instructions, me holding pieces in place. At one point he had 2 identical-looking panels and couldn't figure out which was which. "I think this one has a notch on the left," I said, pointing. He checked. "You're right. Good catch." We worked in comfortable silence for a while. Then Marcus said, Sarah talks about you more now. In a good way. I looked up from the screw I was tightening. Before, she'd mention you sometimes, but it was always heavy, complicated. Now when she talks about you, there's less weight to it. He fitted another piece into place. I think these phone calls and visits are helping, giving her space to figure out what she wants this to look like. I hope so. She's still scared, though, that you'll revert, that this is temporary. I know. Are you? Scared. I thought about it. Terrified. Not of reverting, I won't let myself do that, but of not being enough. Of trying my hardest and still failing her again. Marcus nodded. I get that. I'm terrified about being a dad. About screwing up some fundamental thing and not realizing it until it's too late. You'll be fine. You show up. That's most of it. That's what Sarah says. He lined up another panel. She told me about the wedding, about asking you to leave. She feels guilty about it. She shouldn't. I told her the same thing, but she does anyway. He glanced at me. She was trying to protect herself, drawing a boundary. I think part of her hoped you'd fight for it, argue, demand to stay, something. And when you just left quietly, it confirmed what she'd feared, that you didn't care enough to fight. The assessment stung because it was probably accurate. I didn't know how to fight for her, I said quietly. I'd spent so many years backing off, giving space, not pushing. I didn't know that was what she needed. I don't think she knew either. Not until after. Marcus picked up the next piece. But the payment thing, canceling everything, that showed her you felt something. That you were hurt. That it mattered. In a weird way, I think that's what started this whole thing. You finally reacted. Finally showed emotion instead of just accepting whatever she dished out. I'd never thought of it that way. She needs to know you care enough to react, Marcus continued, but also that you respect her enough to accept her decisions. It's a balance. Sounds impossible. Most relationships are. He smiled slightly. But you're figuring it out. Both of you are. We finished the crib 45 minutes later. Stood back to admire our work. It's actually level, Marcus said, sounding surprised. Don't jinx it. Sarah appeared in the doorway. You did it. We did, Marcus confirmed. She walked over, ran her hand along the railing. It's perfect. She's going to love it. She won't know the difference for a few years, I said. Still, Sarah looked at us. Thank you. Both of you. We went back downstairs. Had coffee, decaf for Sarah. Sat in their living room talking about nothing important. Baby names they were considering. Marcus's new project at work. My brother and his upcoming visit. Normal conversation. Easy conversation. At one point, Sarah excused herself. Marcus got a phone call and stepped outside. I sat there in their living room, in this house they were building together, and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Belonging. Not forced. Not obligatory. Just present. When it was time to leave, Sarah walked me to the door. Thank you for coming, she said. For helping with the crib. For being here. Thank you for inviting me. We're having Thanksgiving here. Small thing. Just us and Mom and Marcus's parents. Would you want to come? Thanksgiving. With Janet. With Marcus's parents who'd saved the wedding. With everyone who knew the whole messy story. Are you sure? No, she said honestly. But I want to try. And if it's terrible, at least we'll have tried. Then I'd love to. She smiled. Hugged me again. Longer this time. More certain. See you in 2 weeks? She said. I'll be here. I drove home as the sun was setting. The streets were quiet. Families having dinner. Lights coming on in windows. The world settling into evening. My phone rang. Janet. I answered. Hello. Sarah told me she invited you to Thanksgiving. She did. A pause. That's good. That's progress. It is. I'm glad you're trying. Really trying this time. Her voice was softer than I'd heard it in years. She deserves that. And so do you. Thank you. Don't make me regret saying that. I won't. After we hung up, I pulled into a parking lot. Sat there watching the sky fade from orange to purple to dark. I thought about the crib Marcus and I had built, about Sarah's hand on the railing, about Thanksgiving dinner with people who had every reason to hate me but were willing to give me a chance anyway, about my granddaughter who would sleep in that crib in a few months, about all the moments I'd missed with Sarah and all the moments I might get to have with this new little person. I wasn't fixed. The relationship with Sarah wasn't fixed. We still had years of hurt to work through, still had conversations we needed to have, still had trust to rebuild. But we were trying, both of us, and that was something. The 3 weeks until the ultrasound appointment felt simultaneously endless and too short. I caught myself counting down days like a kid before Christmas, then worrying I was being too eager, too presumptuous. Dr. Morrison smiled when I told her during our session. "This is good. You're allowed to be excited. What if I mess it up? Say the wrong thing? Make Sarah regret inviting me? What if you just show up and be present? What if it goes well?" I'd gotten better at catching my spiraling, but old habits died hard. The day of the appointment, I arrived at the medical building 15 minutes early, sat in my car rehearsing what not to do. Don't talk too much. Don't ask invasive questions. Don't cry. Sarah probably wouldn't appreciate that. At exactly 2:45, I walked into the waiting room. Sarah and Marcus were already there. Janet arrived a minute later. We exchanged polite greetings, found seats arranged in a small cluster. "Nervous?" Janet asked Sarah. "A little. They're checking all the measurements today, making sure everything's on track." "It will be," Marcus said, holding her hand. When the nurse called Sarah's name, we all stood. The nurse looked at our group, for adults for one appointment, and smiled. "Popular patient today." "My family," Sarah said. There was a slight emphasis on the word. Family. All of us. The exam room was small. Marcus sat in the chair next to the exam table. Janet and I stood against the back wall, trying not to take up too much space. The ultrasound technician introduced herself as Maya, squeezed gel onto Sarah's belly and pressed the wand against her skin. The screen flickered. Then suddenly there she was, my granddaughter. Not just a blob or a grainy outline. An actual baby. Tiny but unmistakable. I could see her profile. Button nose, little hands curled near her face. She was moving, shifting position. "Everything looks great," Maya said, moving the wand. "Good heartbeat. Strong measurements. She's right on track." She walked us through the images. The chambers of her heart, the curve of her spine, her tiny feet. Sarah was crying quietly. Marcus was too. Even Janet had tears in her eyes. I stood there against the wall, watching this tiny person on the screen, and felt something crack open in my chest. Love. Immediate and overwhelming. "Would you like to hear the heartbeat?" Maya asked. Sarah nodded. Maya adjusted something. Suddenly the room filled with sound. A rapid whooshing, rhythmic and strong. "That's her," Sarah whispered. "That's her." We all stood there listening. No one spoke. Just that sound, steady and insistent and alive. After the appointment, we stood in the parking lot. Janet hugged Sarah, said she'd call later, and left. Marcus excused himself to move the car closer. Sarah and I stood alone. "Thank you for letting me be there," I said. "I'm glad you came." She looked down at the ultrasound pictures in her hand. "It felt right, having you there. It meant everything to me." "I know." She looked up. "I've been thinking about what happens after she's born, about boundaries and how much involvement I'm comfortable with." My stomach tightened. "Okay. You don't get to be the fun grandfather who shows up occasionally with gifts and disappears. If you're in, you're in. Consistently. Regular visits, phone calls. Being there for the boring stuff too. I understand. And if you start pulling away, if you go back to old patterns, I will cut you off. Completely. I won't let her experience what I experienced. Loving someone who isn't really there. I won't do that to her. Or to you. You say that now. But what about in a year? 2 years? When the novelty wears off? I'll still be here." She studied my face. "I want to believe you. Then watch me prove it." Marcus pulled up. Sarah started toward the car, then turned back. My baby shower is in 3 weeks. Sunday afternoon. Would you want to come? Are you sure? There will be some men there. Marcus's dad. My uncle. She paused. I want you there. Then I'll be there. She smiled. Got in the car. I watched them drive away. That evening, I couldn't stop looking at the ultrasound picture Sarah had given me. My granddaughter. Real. Alive. Coming soon. And I was going to be there for her. The 3 weeks until the ultrasound appointment felt simultaneously endless and too short. I caught myself counting down days like a kid before Christmas, then worrying I was being too eager, too presumptuous. Dr. Morrison smiled when I told her during our session. This is good. You're allowed to be excited. What if I mess it up? Say the wrong thing? Make Sarah regret inviting me? What if you just show up and be present? What if it goes well? I'd gotten better at catching my spiraling, but old habits died hard. The day of the appointment, I arrived at the medical building 15 minutes early, sat in my car rehearsing what not to do. Don't talk too much. Don't ask invasive questions. Don't cry. Sarah probably wouldn't appreciate that. At exactly 2:45, I walked into the waiting room. Sarah and Marcus were already there. Janet arrived a minute later. We exchanged polite greetings, found seats arranged in a small cluster. Nervous? Janet asked Sarah. A little. They're checking all the measurements today, making sure everything's on track. It will be, Marcus said, holding her hand. When the nurse called Sarah's name, we all stood. The nurse looked at our group, for adults for one appointment, and smiled. Popular patient today. My family, Sarah said. There was a slight emphasis on the word. Family. All of us. The exam room was small. Marcus sat in the chair next to the exam table. Janet and I stood against the back wall, trying not to take up too much space. The ultrasound technician introduced herself as Maya, squeezed gel onto Sarah's belly and pressed the wand against her skin. The screen flickered. Then suddenly there she was, my granddaughter. Not just a blob or a grainy outline. An actual baby. Tiny but unmistakable. I could see her profile. Button nose, little hands curled near her face. She was moving, shifting position. Everything looks great, Maya said, moving the wand. Good heartbeat. Strong measurements. She's right on track. She walked us through the images. The chambers of her heart. The curve of her spine. Her tiny feet. Sarah was crying quietly. Marcus was too. Even Janet had tears in her eyes. I stood there against the wall, watching this tiny person on the screen, and felt something crack open in my chest. Love. Immediate and overwhelming. Would you like to hear the heartbeat? Maya asked. Sarah nodded. Maya adjusted something. Suddenly the room filled with sound. A rapid whooshing, rhythmic and strong. That's her. Sarah whispered. That's her. We all stood there listening. No one spoke. Just that sound, steady and insistent and alive. After the appointment, we stood in the parking lot. Janet hugged Sarah, said she'd call later, and left. Marcus excused himself to move the car closer. Sarah and I stood alone. Thank you for letting me be there, I said. I'm glad you came. She looked down at the ultrasound pictures in her hand. It felt right, having you there. It meant everything to me. I know. She looked up. I've been thinking about what happens after she's born. About boundaries and how much involvement I'm comfortable with. My stomach tightened. Okay. You don't get to be the fun grandfather who shows up occasionally with gifts and disappears. If you're in, you're in. Consistently. Regular visits, phone calls. Being there for the boring stuff too. I understand. And if you start pulling away, if you go back to old patterns, I will cut you off. Completely. I won't let her experience what I experienced. Loving someone who isn't really there. I won't do that to her. Or to you. You say that now. But what about in a year? 2 years? When the novelty wears off. I'll still be here. She studied my face. I want to believe you. Then watch me prove it. Marcus pulled up. Sarah started toward the car, then turned back. My baby shower is in 3 weeks. Sunday afternoon. Would you want to come? Are you sure? There will be some men there. Marcus's dad. My uncle. She paused. I want you there. Then I'll be there. She smiled. Got in the car. I watched them drive away. That evening, I couldn't stop looking at the ultrasound picture Sarah had given me. My granddaughter. Real. Alive. Coming soon. And I was going to be there for her. The 3 weeks until the ultrasound appointment felt simultaneously endless and too short. I caught myself counting down days like a kid before Christmas, then worrying I was being too eager, too presumptuous. Dr. Morrison smiled when I told her during our session. This is good. You're allowed to be excited. What if I mess it up? Say the wrong thing? Make Sarah regret inviting me? What if you just show up and be present? What if it goes well? I'd gotten better at catching my spiraling, but old habits died hard. The day of the appointment, I arrived at the medical building 15 minutes early, sat in my car rehearsing what not to do. Don't talk too much. Don't ask invasive questions. Don't cry. Sarah probably wouldn't appreciate that. At exactly 2:45, I walked into the waiting room. Sarah and Marcus were already there. Janet arrived a minute later. We exchanged polite greetings, found seats arranged in a small cluster. Nervous? Janet asked Sarah. A little. They're checking all the measurements today, making sure everything's on track. It will be, Marcus said, holding her hand. When the nurse called Sarah's name, we all stood. The nurse looked at our group, for adults for one appointment, and smiled. Popular patient today. My family, Sarah said. There was a slight emphasis on the word. Family. All of us. The exam room was small. Marcus sat in the chair next to the exam table. Janet and I stood against the back wall, trying not to take up too much space. The ultrasound technician introduced herself as Maya. Squeezed gel onto Sarah's belly and pressed the wand against her skin. The screen flickered. Then suddenly there she was. My granddaughter. Not just a blob or a grainy outline. An actual baby. Tiny but unmistakable. I could see her profile. Button nose, little hands curled near her face. She was moving, shifting position. Everything looks great, Maya said, moving the wand. Good heartbeat. Strong measurements. She's right on track. She walked us through the images. The chambers of her heart. The curve of her spine. Her tiny feet. Sarah was crying quietly. Marcus was too. Even Janet had tears in her eyes. I stood there against the wall, watching this tiny person on the screen, and felt something crack open in my chest. Love. Immediate and overwhelming. Would you like to hear the heartbeat? Maya asked. Sarah nodded. Maya adjusted something. Suddenly the room filled with sound. A rapid whooshing, rhythmic and strong. That's her. Sarah whispered. That's her. We all stood there listening. No one spoke. Just that sound, steady and insistent and alive. After the appointment, we stood in the parking lot. Janet hugged Sarah, said she'd call later, and left. Marcus excused himself to move the car closer. Sarah and I stood alone. Thank you for letting me be there, I said. I'm glad you came. She looked down at the ultrasound pictures in her hand. It felt right, having you there. It meant everything to me. I know. She looked up. I've been thinking about what happens after she's born. About boundaries and how much involvement I'm comfortable with. My stomach tightened. Okay. You don't get to be the fun grandfather who shows up occasionally with gifts and disappears. If you're in, you're in. Consistently. Regular visits, phone calls. Being there for the boring stuff too. I understand. And if you start pulling away, if you go back to old patterns, I will cut you off. Completely. I won't let her experience what I experienced. Loving someone who isn't really there. I won't do that to her. Or to you. You say that now. But what about in a year? 2 years? When the novelty wears off. I'll still be here. She studied my face. I want to believe you. Then watch me prove it. Marcus pulled up. Sarah started toward the car, then turned back. My baby shower is in 3 weeks. Sunday afternoon. Would you want to come? Are you sure? There will be some men there. Marcus's dad. My uncle. She paused. I want you there. Then I'll be there. She smiled, got in the car. I watched them drive away. That evening, I couldn't stop looking at the ultrasound picture Sarah had given me. My granddaughter. Real. Alive. Coming soon. And I was going to be there for her. The baby shower was at Janet's house. The house where Sarah grew up. Where I'd lived for 23 years. Walking in felt strange. Familiar and foreign at the same time. Janet had redecorated. New furniture, new paint. But the bones of the place were the same. Dan! She greeted me at the door. You can put the gift with the others. I'd agonized over what to bring. Finally settled on a baby carrier, one of those structured ones that distributes weight ergonomically. Practical. Useful. Not trying too hard. The living room was full of people. Sarah's friends, co-workers, relatives I vaguely recognized. Marcus's father was there, talking with another man near the food table. Sarah was holding court on the couch, surrounded by gifts and wrapping paper. She looked happy, radiant. She saw me, waved. Dad, you made it. Several heads turned. I felt the appraisal again. The whispers, probably. That's her father. I made my way over. Congratulations. Everything looks wonderful. Mom went overboard. But I love it. She gestured to a chair. Sit. You're just in time for games. The games were ridiculous. Guessing baby food flavors blindfolded. Estimating Sarah's belly circumference with toilet paper. A word scramble with baby-related terms. I participated. Felt foolish, didn't care. Janet watched from the kitchen doorway at one point. When our eyes met, she gave me a small nod. Approval? Acknowledgement? I wasn't sure, but it felt significant. After the gifts were opened, mountains of tiny clothes, blankets, toys, Janet brought out a cake. Everyone sang. Sarah cut the first piece. Speech, someone called out. Sarah laughed, shook her head, then stood. Okay, fine. I just want to thank everyone for being here. For the gifts, the love, the support. Marcus and I are terrified and excited and so grateful to have all of you in our corner. She paused, scanned the room. This baby is going to be so loved. By her parents, her grandparents, her aunts and uncles, everyone here. She's lucky to have all of you. Her eyes landed on me when she said grandparents. Plural. Including me. After the party wound down, I helped clean up. Carried chairs, stacked plates, folded tables. Janet and I worked in the kitchen together, washing dishes in familiar silence. She's scared, Janet said eventually. About you. About trusting this. I know. But she's trying. That's significant. It is. Janet handed me a plate to dry. I was wrong about you. I looked at her. What? When you canceled the wedding payments, I thought you were being vindictive. Petty. I told Sarah you'd never change. She paused. But you have. You're actually showing up. Doing the work. I didn't think you had it in you. I didn't think I did either. Well. She handed me another plate. Don't stop. She needs this. And so does that baby. I won't. We finished the dishes. Sarah and Marcus were packing up gifts, loading them into their car. I carried out a box of baby clothes. Thank you for coming, Sarah said. I know baby showers aren't exactly exciting for most people. I was happy to be included. Your family, she said simply. Of course you're included. Family. She'd said it again. Driving home, I thought about all the small moments that had built to this. The phone calls, the coffee meetings, the ultrasound, the baby shower, each one a brick, rebuilding what I'd let crumble. It was slow, painstaking, sometimes painful, but it was working. My phone buzzed at a red light. A text from Sarah. 1 month until my due date. Getting real now. I responded, you're going to be an amazing mother. Her reply, hope so. She deserves a good one. She has one. And she has a grandfather who's not going anywhere. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again. Finally, thank you. For everything. For trying. For being here. Always. I put my phone down and drove home through the December darkness. 1 month. In 1 month, everything would change again. And this time I'd be ready.